What if I told you that most of your life has been quietly controlled by something you never chose: your dreams, your obsessions, even your idea of love? All of it shaped by a silent force you've never questioned. It doesn't speak in words. It doesn't ask for permission. It just pulls the strings. And the scariest part, you've mistaken it for you. Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychiatrist, had a name for it: the unconscious. But what's buried in that unconscious is far darker and far more powerful than most people dare to admit. But honestly, that's not the creepiest part. What's really unsettling is what's hiding in that unconscious. Because buried deep within your personal history, running through you like a hidden vein, right under the skin, there's this primitive, silent force. You don't consciously name it. You probably go out of your way to avoid looking it in the eye. But it's absolutely there, quietly, relentlessly influencing your thoughts, shaping your reactions, fueling your deepest, most inexplicable obsessions. And what is this force? Sex. Now hold on. Before you click away, let's be crystal clear. I am not talking about the physical act, or pleasure, or even desire in the everyday sense of wanting something. I'm talking about sex as a symbol, as a fundamental psychic impulse, as the silent engine driving so much of what you do, what you chase, what you build, even if you'd swear up and down it has nothing to do with it. Think about it for a second. Why do you dress the way you do? Why are your words so carefully chosen, almost performative, around certain people? Why do you bust your tail, trying so hard to be admired, validated, accepted by a world that barely knows you? And why, when you're finally alone with yourself, is there this nagging, profound emptiness you just can't seem to name? Because underneath all of it is a need older than you are. A fundamental evolutionary drive wired into your very being, the desperate need to be desired, to belong, to not be invisible in a vast, indifferent universe. And that need, that raw impulse, if you don't understand it, if you refuse to look it in the face and integrate it, it will absolutely consume you from the inside out. You might not even realize it's happening until you're halfway gone. And this is exactly where Carl Jung becomes essential. In Carl Jung's shadow work, this buried sexual energy isn't just repressed, it's projected, disguised, and ultimately becomes your shadow. He didn't talk about sex the way society usually does, as either a biological function, a moral issue, or cheap entertainment. For him, it was an archetype, a psychic force so primal, so powerful, so deeply influential that if you fail to consciously recognize and engage with it, it becomes your shadow. And that shadow starts pulling the strings. It dictates your decisions. It feeds your fears. It shapes your relationships. It even whispers insidious instructions into your dreams. It makes you think you're living freely, following your own path, all while secretly controlling every move you make. Sex, the way Jung conceived it, isn't some dirty secret to be hidden away. It's a key, a doorway, a direct, potent access point to who you truly are. But crossing that threshold, well, that takes something most people are terrified of. Facing your most uncomfortable impulses, your most unconfessable desires, peeling back the layers of the carefully constructed masks you wear. Because here's the brutal truth. Most people aren't actually who they think they are. They are, to a significant degree, what their unrecognized impulses have shaped them into. And the more fiercely they deny that reality, the more profoundly they become slaves to it. So what if everything you hold dear, your career goals, your daily habits, the very dynamics of your most intimate relationships, is actually tainted by a fundamental sexual impulse you misunderstood? an impulse you poorly managed, perhaps repressed so completely. It's now just rotting away in your unconscious. What if that repression, far from making you stronger or more virtuous, has actually made you weaker, more easily manipulated? What if what you call morality or prudence or plain old common sense is just an elegant, self-imposed cage for something inside you that's still screaming, clawing, desperate to get out? Let's not get confused. We're not talking about pornography here. We're not talking about scandal or tabloid headlines. We're talking about something far more dangerous to your personal freedom. How an entire society has built its core value system on the denial of a biological and psychic truth that just keeps pounding relentlessly beneath the veneer of respectability. See, the sexual impulse doesn't just vanish because you decide to ignore it or condemn it. It transforms, it twists itself into anxiety, into undirected anger, into chronic frustration. It fuels insidious addictions, addiction to control, addiction to external approval, addiction to empty, hollow success. It manifests in broken relationships. It solidifies into chronic loneliness. It becomes a persistent soul-deep dissatisfaction you can never shake. And if you don't see this pattern in your own life, if you can't connect these dots, that's probably because you don't want to see it. Because truly seeing it means admitting you're not entirely in the driver's seat. It means admitting there's a powerful, vital part of you you've buried so deeply, so carefully, you've genuinely forgotten it's even there. What if I told you your deepest tastes, your most passionate interests, even your most debilitating fears are profoundly shaped by this unacknowledged impulse, that even your most firmly held convictions might just be clever rationalizations, elaborate psychological defenses crafted specifically to help you avoid facing that deeply uncomfortable truth about yourself? Because when Jung talked about concepts like the anima and the animus, the inner feminine and masculine principles within each of us, he wasn't just rattling off cold academic theories. He was speaking from the raw, often painful experience of watching brilliant, highly structured, seemingly correct people repeatedly collapse into agonizing existential crises. Crises that time and again had one simple common root: a brutal disconnection from their deep, authentic sexual dimension. Have you ever noticed how the most significant decisions in your life are loaded with this strange, inexplicable tension? How a simple glance across a crowded room can hit you harder, resonate deeper than an hour-long, perfectly crafted speech? How desire, not love, not affection, but raw, potent desire, can suddenly make you question your values, abandon your plans, even betray yourself in ways you swore you never would. That is the force we're talking about. And you cannot tame it with positive affirmations. You cannot control it with sheer willpower. And you definitely cannot wish it away with repression. Your only options are to truly understand it consciously, integrate it, or be utterly devoured by it. So no, this isn't just a video about sex. It's a video about true control. About the invisible threads that move civilization itself, even as it proudly proclaims it has evolved beyond such primitive drives. And you watching right now stand at a critical fork in the road. You can keep believing the comforting illusion that you're completely free, just floating along on your own terms. Or you can choose the far more challenging path, starting to look for real. But be warned. What you're about to see, you might not like it. You might actively recoil from it. But it will be real. Brutally, fundamentally real. And when you dare to step into Carl Jung's world, truly understanding what he uncovered can do more than just set you free from your self-imposed chains. It can completely, irrevocably rewrite the way you see everything. Absolutely everything. Ready? Because this next part, yeah, it's probably going to sting a little, but it's also going to wake you up like nothing else. The first fundamental concept you need to grasp is this. Your mind is not a perfectly unified single entity. You are not one simple thing. Inside you lives a dynamic, often chaotic interplay of multiple forces, conflicting desires, old traumas, shiny ideals, and those meticulously crafted masks. Jung called this complex totality the self, a psychic wholeness that most of us barely manage to integrate in a lifetime. And one of the most primal, most potent forces swirling within that inner chaos, what he called libido. But this is not the Freudian libido, narrowly reduced to a genital impulse. Jung went far, far deeper. For him, libido is universal psychic energy itself. It's the fundamental impulse towards life. It's the creative spark. It's the destructive drive. It's the raw foundation upon which your entire personality is built. And yes, absolutely part of that energy expresses itself as sexuality. But it's not just about sex in the narrow sense. It's about transformation. It's about the energy of becoming. And this is precisely where most people get completely lost. They believe that denying sex means controlling it, that repressing sexual thoughts means overcoming them, that hiding their deepest desires means they're finally mature, finally good. But what's really happening is they are fragmenting themselves. They are splitting their own identity right down the middle. They separate what they feel on the deepest level from what they show the world. And that painful internal division turns them into puppets of themselves. Because what you repress doesn't disappear into thin air. It just goes into hiding. It retreats into the shadow parts of your psyche. And from that hidden place, it starts pulling those strings moving like a powerful beast you keep chained up in the basement. Silent, yes, often invisible, but getting stronger and stronger the longer it's denied conscious expression. Ever wondered why you keep hitting the same wall in your relationships? Why you seem to attract the same kinds of challenging people? The same repetitive conflicts? The same soul-crushing disappointments over and over? It's not random bad luck. It's unconscious repetition. It's that powerful, unintegrated libido acting from the shadow, desperately trying to force you to finally deal with what you're refusing to see within yourself. It's seeking balance, even if it has to create chaos in your external life to do it. Jung warned us over and over, what you don't make conscious becomes your destiny. And that, perhaps more than anything, includes your sexual impulses. What you don't understand about yourself will control you. What you deny in yourself will ultimately possess you. Now lean in closely, because this is a crucial point, a fundamental shift in perspective. Repressed sexual energy doesn't just mess with your intimate life or your dating patterns. Its influence filters into every corner of your existence, your spirituality, your creativity, even your fundamental sense of purpose and meaning. Why? Because when that vital energy isn't channeled consciously, when it's locked away, it distorts. It twists itself into an insatiable obsession for control, into a compulsive, frantic need to achieve goals you don't even understand the true origin of, into a desperate, bottomless seeking of external recognition, into a chronic, aching need for validation from others. Think of the influencers preaching about hustle, the self-help gurus promising abundance, the polished couples flaunting ideal love online. What if beneath all that curated perfection lies the same gaping hole, a brutal disconnection from their authentic core desire, a brutal fundamental disconnection from their authentic deep sexual dimension? understood as the energy of life and connection. And this isn't a moral critique, let alone a religious condemnation. It's a raw, clinical observation. Jung saw it in hundreds, thousands of patients, educated, sophisticated, outwardly functioning, seemingly conscious people, but broken inside, lost, fragmented, utterly powerless against a fundamental force within them they didn't even know how to name, let alone integrate. So many of them came seeking spiritual answers, philosophical enlightenment solutions to their nagging existential dread. And Jung, with terrifying clarity and compassion, led them to look exactly where they least wanted to, at the raw, potent desire they had been denying, burying, and running from for years. Because unaccepted desire doesn't lie dormant, it distorts and hijacks your choices. It turns you into a mask, a version of yourself built to survive, not to live. Because here's another massive truth very few people are willing to acknowledge. Most people aren't actually themselves out in the world. They are a carefully controlled, meticulously edited, perfectly molded version designed primarily to avoid rejection, to meet external expectations, to keep the social peace. But beneath that polished mask, the unconscious burns. And one of its most intense, most dynamic fires is eros, attraction, magnetism, the fundamental energy-seeking connection, creation, expansion, life itself. And you know what happens when that deep, vital part of you is repressed for years. It starts sabotaging you. It sabotages your work. It sabotages your relationships. It sabotages your mental and physical health. You absolutely cannot silence such a fundamental, life-giving part of yourself without profound consequences. Jung made it crystal clear, stating unequivocally, all unexpressed energy ultimately turns into neurosis. And look around today. We see the symptoms everywhere. Brilliant people, incredibly talented people, people with all the resources in the world, completely stuck, trapped in debilitating cycles of anxiety, crippling emotional dependence, profound existential emptiness. And hardly anyone dares name the real root origin, a brutal disconnection from their own core sexual energy. Understood not as something base or vulgar, but as something utterly sacred and essential to human wholeness. Because here's another uncomfortable truth we are rarely taught. Sexual energy isn't just for biological reproduction or fleeting physical pleasure. It is a fundamental tool for radical self-knowledge, for profound inner transformation. It is the raw material you can use to completely transmute and rebuild yourself if you know how to consciously engage with it. The problem is, nobody teaches us that. They teach us to fear it, to hide it, to silence it, to feel shame around it. And so, entire generations learn to live truncated, mutilated lives, with half their psyche effectively asleep, with a fundamental desire that doesn't vanish but simply disguises itself. It might look like relentless ambition, or obsessive romanticism, or even a kind of disconnected, inauthentic spirituality. But it's still there, still crying out to be seen, to be integrated, to be brought into the light of conscious awareness. And now I'm going to ask you something deeply personal, and please have the courage not to answer it lightly. How many of your most significant life decisions were secretly based, even unconsciously, on the desire to be desired by others? How many times did you subtly or not so subtly become what you knew would attract external attention, even if it pulled you further and further away from who you actually are? How many moments of your authentic core self did you sacrifice just for a fleeting moment of external validation? A brief feeling of belonging? If you can be truly, brutally honest with yourself in answering those questions, you will notice something deeply disturbing. In countless ways, your life doesn't actually belong to you. It belongs to unrecognized desire, to what Jung also called the collective unconscious, which in this context acts like a vast inherited cultural sexual mold. A pervasive invisible set of images, roles, expectations, and narratives we all absorb without even realizing it. And that mold is exponentially stronger than you think. It dictates how you should desire, whom you should desire, when, how much. It defines what's attractive, what's normal, what's excessive. And if you don't fit neatly into that predefined mold, you carry around a silent, aching feeling that you are fundamentally broken or wrong. But here's the most dangerous trap. The more you try to cram yourself into that rigid mold, the further and further you get from your own unique inner truth, from the authentic expression of your own eros. And that's precisely where the symptoms kick in with a vengeance. Because Jung also famously said that symptoms, your anxiety, your depression, your insomnia, that nagging existential distress, are not the problem themselves. They are the cry. The desperate scream of something vital inside you that has been locked away, ignored, denied for years. And what if that cry is in fact your unintegrated sexual energy, not the superficial energy of a one-night stand or fleeting attraction? We're talking about deep eros, the kind that connects you to your raw creativity, your potent passion, your true personal power. That deep eros Jung linked directly to the individuation process, to the sacred alchemical journey of becoming whole, to the difficult, messy, often painful path toward your real self, not just the social character you've perfected for the world. And you know what the very first unavoidable stage on that journey is. In Carl Jung's shadow work, it's recognizing with unflinching honesty that you are not free, that your chains aren't really in the system or society, or even the difficult hand you were dealt in history. They are first and foremost in your unconscious, in your shadow, in that hidden, exiled corner of your psyche where your sexuality has been denied, distorted, and locked away your entire life. And until you are brave enough to consciously go there to open that door, you will keep searching outside for what's always been inside you. You will keep believing you need more love, more success, more external recognition, when in reality all you need is to courageously reconnect with the source, with that primal, brutal, powerful energy that has lived inside you since before it even had a name. Sex, yes, but not the flattened, commercialized, often toxic version fed to you by ads or movies or social media algorithms. The raw, potent version Jung understood. The most honest, most direct, most terrifyingly beautiful door to who you truly are. And the question left hanging in the air is simple, but devastating. Are you going to keep living as if that door doesn't exist? Because if you decide right now to open it, get ready. Absolutely nothing will ever be the same. And just when you think you've finally got a handle on things, the final, most insidious trap snaps shut. The one that has captured millions upon millions without them ever even knowing it. Because once you start to make your eros conscious, once you manage to see its immense power and begin the incredibly difficult work of integrating it, the spiritual ego can emerge. The seemingly enlightened character. That smug, self-satisfied inner voice that whispers, "Ah, yes, you've transcended desire. You are above all that now. It no longer controls you." Be very careful. That too is just another illusion, perhaps the most convincing one. Because Eros isn't transcended. It's inhabited. Not overcome, but honored. And if you think you've defeated it, then you haven't understood it at all. This is where the real lifelong work begins. Because the challenge isn't just waking up to desire. It's learning to walk with it, to integrate it into your conscious life, without letting it become your entire identity, without clinging to it obsessively, without turning it into some kind of twisted worship, without using it as just another shiny disguise to impress the world. It's recognizing that Eros isn't an enemy to be vanquished, but it's not a god to be worshipped either. It is a fundamental part of you, a fragment of the raw, primordial fire that lives within. And like all fire, it can illuminate you, cleanses you, and warm you, or it can burn everything you've built down to ash. The difference lies entirely in whether you choose to recognize it, understand it, and integrate it, or keep denying its existence. Look around you again with these new eyes. Everyone seems to be running towards something outside themselves. More money, more fame, the perfect body, the ideal partner. But what if all that endless, frantic external striving were nothing more than an unconscious ritual, a desperate outward search to reconnect with the lost Eros inside? What if the real liberating path wasn't about accumulating more, but about looking deeply inward and discovering which vital part of you was silenced the moment you started trying to be good, to fit in, to be what others expected society, the system, the cultural mold. They want you domesticated. They want you predictable. They desperately want you disconnected from your deep, authentic desire, because they know this truth, even if only unconsciously. A person who has genuinely reconciled with their Eros, who has integrated their shadow, who has found the source of their power within, that person cannot be manipulated. They don't buy into empty narratives. They don't need to belong to any specific tribe or group to feel whole. They are rooted. They are sovereign. They are free. And that's terrifying to any system built on external control, because a truly free person is dangerous. Not because they inflict harm on others, but because they infect. Because their very presence shines an undeniable light on how deeply asleep everyone else might be. And now, here we are, you and me, at what might feel like the end of this intense journey. Or perhaps just the terrifying, exhilarating beginning. Because what you've heard today aren't meant to be simple answers wrapped up neatly. They are triggers. They are cracks in the facade of your assumptions. They are questions that might just follow you, haunt you, challenge you for days or weeks. And that's okay. In fact, that's more than okay. That's the unmistakable sign that something fundamental has moved inside you. That what's been repressed for so long is finally starting to demand a name, a shape, a voice. Maybe now you'll start noticing things in your own life you never saw before. Maybe you'll suddenly remember specific moments, specific decisions where you denied a deep desire out of fear or shame or the need for approval. Maybe you'll start seeing those recurring patterns in your relationships with a terrifying new clarity. Maybe, just maybe, you won't be able to look at certain people or yourself the same way ever again. And believe me, that is a profoundly, fundamentally good sign, because only what is first seen with brutal, unflinching honesty can ever truly transform. But before you close this video, I want you to do one specific thing. If you've made it this far, if you're still listening, trust me, it's not a coincidence. Comment below this phrase exactly as it is. My shadow no longer scares me. Don't do it for me. Do it for you. Because writing it down, putting it out there, acknowledging it, even just to yourself in that public space, that is an act of power. It is the first tangible step toward stopping the lifetime of denial and finally stepping into your uncomfortable truth. And if this video has touched something deep inside you, if it has moved even one tiny stubborn stone in the wall you've built around your desire, around your true self, then subscribe. Because this channel isn't here to entertain you with psychological platitudes. It's here to challenge you, to shake you awake from the cultural trance, to show you exactly what nobody else wants you to see about yourself and the world. We are not here to decorate the surface. We are here to expose the truth, to tear open illusions, to awaken something real. So follow along if you have the courage to look at what others hide. If you're sick of the empty explanations that leave you feeling hollow. If you genuinely, desperately want to understand how your own mind really works beyond the surface. And most of all, if you are finally truly ready to stop lying to yourself and start living. I'm going to leave you now, but before you hit that next recommended video, please do this. Turn off the screen, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and just ask yourself silently, in the quietest part of your being, what part of me have I been denying all this time? Take another deep breath and listen. Really listen to what the silence tells you. Because sometimes what you refuse to hear is precisely what's screaming the loudest. Not just in the next video, but in that quiet moment when you finally dare to face your shadow and no longer look away.